Hello, this is JC from Real and Simulated Wars. We're going to talk today about the tactical level of warfare, and we're very familiar with what we call tactics in our, jargon, which is sometimes people are, limiting themselves to these, I could call them more drills than actual tactics, like bounding Overwatch or covering fire or this or that. What I want to talk to you about, it is a level above that, like a small step inside. This is a place where things are more than a drill, and you start combining those drills into something that requires your creative power or leadership to finally succeed in the battlefield. So I'm gonna call this series Fight Like a Marine, not because I'm a Marine or have been a Marine. I'm not affiliated. This is just from the absolute hobbyist point of view. But we're going to talk today about this particular part of US Marine Corps doctrine, which is the systemic view of the enemy, how to view the enemy as a system. And indeed, you will find references to this in the prime doctrinal publication of the US Marine Corps. This is MCDP1, Warfighting, and it's available online. It is a kind of expresses the philosophy of how to fight at the tactical and operational levels by the US Marine Corps. And one of the things, I don't remember exactly which page it is this thing located, but it talks about the enemy as a system. And you see it over there, the quote that I particularly talk about right now, and how the enemy has to be seen as a complete system, not as a isolated or non-animated blob of targets that you can aim and shoot and destroy, but rather how these things do work together. And indeed, systems theory has been around for a while already. I do believe it goes way back to the works of Bert Lamphey, and right now has taken a second life because people are learning from these systems point of view how to deal with corporations, stock markets, and many things that make really a difference in our daily lives. So it is a really revealing way to see the world, and there are many surprises. And if you're intellectually inclined, so I would keenly recommend to take a look at this systems point of view or view of the world. And if you are just starting, this book by Donella Meadows, actually it was edited by one of her fellow workers at the Sustainability Institute, because she unfortunately she passed away, but you can see some of her lectures online in YouTube. And I highly recommend this book because it provides the basics. And I have to tell you, of course, the enemy, it is a system, but it's not a simple system as I am showing you right here in this slide. Indeed, the any fighting organization is a complex system, because the intricate way they interact with its parts within itself, like feedback loops and all those type of relationships, they contribute to make it something that is more than the sum of its parts, as I put it there in the title. But at the very basic level, one can imagine systems as a series of flows and stocks. And well, of course I'm omitting here the feedback loops that go back and forth and interact with each other, but in terms of how these things do look for a fighting enemy or for a fighting formation, I could say that, you know, stock, it is, for instance, the amount of soldiers that you have manning a trench, or, you know, manning a position from when they can apply firepower. And flow, it is, well, for instance, as we're going to see today, the way they move into the battlefield to bring those resources into the front line. And of course the flow, it is a firepower, all the kinetic power that they can apply into the enemy. Of course it is a flow, and you will have feedback loops coming back and forth, but that's the very basics. And indeed these type of diagrams of flows and stocks are sometimes not trivial to formulate. That's another story. I will leave you in the company of the works of Dr. Meadows there. And but, well, the art here, as the Marines are proposing, it is where to act, how to affect this enemy system. And there are good news and bad news. The bad news is that those points where you're supposed to interact, which by the way they are called leverage points, are not, you know, self-evident. Sometimes you can get fooled thinking that, well, this is a very good leverage point, and actually it's not. And sometimes, many times too, you can, you know, try to affect the leverage point and do it wrongly, and actually the enemy ends up benefiting from that. I think there are plenty of examples of that along the history of warfare. But you know, this is not the purpose of it. I just wanted to make a very short vignette using combat mission shock force for showing these things of flows and stocks. But eventually, you know, you will get into these complex systems and how they interact and all the fascinating properties that they do have. There is also this other book by Andrew Ilachinsky, which is called Artificial War. That's an excellent book. It's very thick, and it is kind of dense, but you know, you can take it very slowly, and there is plenty to be learned from there, and plenty to reflect about this topic, that is fighting wars. So without further ado, we're going to be delving into Combat Mission Shock Force 2, which, by the way, got not a second life, because it was never dead, but, you know, the release of Combat Mission Shock Force 2 in Steam has been, you know, really very refreshing. I never thought I could see the day, but well, there it is. And we're getting a lot of new people into the hobby, which is great. For all of you like me who are of the old guard, I could really encourage you to be very kind. For all newcomers, you know, it is very good. I have seen many examples of a lot of, you know, positive interactions between them, but also I have seen some nasty, you know, condescending comments about mainstream gamers coming into our sacred hobby. No, nothing like that, my love of God. You know, we're all gamers, and we're all dealing with, you know, toy pixels here and there. So Combat Mission Shock Force 2 in Steam is basically the same version that you guys have, that we already had via Battlefront. I'm using the Battlefront version, and well, for showing this thing of the enemy as a system, I have chosen this scenario, which is a very well put scenario. It's called Circle the Wagons. It was actually present also in the first version of Combat Mission Shock Force. And the situation it is, well, you know, as you know, this is Syria, a fictional type of war, and we have insurgents in the town which have immobilized 2 M1 tanks, and they're trying to finish them up. And these insurgents in this town are also threatening all movement through main supply route Delta, which is the paved road that you see there in this video, which is looping, by the way. Don't get distressed about you know that. And well, our mission it is to protect the 2 immobilized M1 A1 tanks, and to secure MSR Delta. Just a friendly reminder, the mission secure, it involves avoiding that neutralizing any type of firepower that the enemy can have through an asset. In this case, it is this route here. Okay, so without further ado, let's move into combat mission. This is a bird's eye view of the battlefield. We have the main supply route Alpha right there, and the main supply route, what was it? Delta or something like that right here. You see that, you know, any enemy assets that are in the village, mainly using these tall buildings, can directly fire into this MSR. And our team, the 2 immobilized tanks are there and there, and as you can see, we have a very thin and small deployment area labeled by blue. The blue icons are of course our Marines, and I kind of shuffle them in the way that I'm gonna fight this. I usually don't, I mean, for this video at least, I'm not gonna go with, you know, how I issue orders or anything like that, but I just want to offer you a preview of the particular care that I took, because this is a tough scenario. And well, as you can see, for the things in the north, I have this vehicle which has a Javelin team or AT tank team and 1 squad of Marines. I'm gonna have them moving towards the north to take care of any insurgents in this area trying to retake and make like a hook and come back into the center of the city. The 2 other vehicles are located right here. 1 vehicle I placed right there, and the other one right here with all these modifiers. How I plan to fight this, at least until reinforcements do come, and this is basically what I want to show for this vignette. It is, I want to make sure that I make use of the concept of systems, and I take particular care of flows. As I mentioned before, using the map, the enemy that is located here is already a stock, probably, you know, enemies that are located there, which are most likely located there already. They are stock. I need to just erase them. We're going to be using some heavy firepower into them, even when the briefing that says do not use there. For this area and this area, I have more hopes that the enemy needs to be moving, needs to be on the move, and that constitutes a flow. So I consider these flows as a leverage point from which I can attack the enemy. So I plan to put some teams, basically this one here, and let's take this out. You see, this is one of the disabled tanks. You see all these avenues of approach here and there, that if you place some asset, putting some firepower into these streets, you can actually get a lot of the enemy in theory. I have another team right here. Any enemy that is trying to approach the tanks right there is going to be crossing this street, and for that I will have this team of Marines. Maybe too much. With a machine gun team should suffice, but basically I'm going to have them covering this street. I have the other machine gun covering the street that goes all the way along, and we also have this very juicy opportunity right here. You see this street, any enemy that is moving to the north is going to be crossing right there. So if I place one of these AAVs right there, I can take care of a lot of enemies crossing this avenue of approach. If you can see in detail, it's a pity that we don't have too many shadows right here because of the time of the day or the meteorological conditions. We have these trenches which appears like open sewers or something like that. We can put some Marines here and put some fires against the enemy right there. So moving the AAVs in these insurgent infested places is certainly a risk. So for this one, who is carrying all my Marines, by the way, I put some, you see these are the waypoints, and each waypoint has, you know, a target light order, so we cover, kind of saturate with fire all the enemies' avenues of approach. So that's what I plan to do. Let's see how it plays out, if we can really take care of that, of those flows of enemies, or we can intervene correctly into this enemy system. And now let's show the action from multiple points of view. We have this machine gun team looking south, and let's see if any enemies appear. Oh, there they are. Come on, guys. Those things, like the enemy like just appearing, is the result of fog of war. As mentioned before, this particular move is kind of risky, too close to the buildings, and we don't know what actually is happening there, but you know, there is a certain amount of risk that needs to be taken. So the AAV already stopped it and is putting some fires. Still no enemy has shown. And this sequence here shows the Marine disembarking and taking positions. It is, as I mentioned, risky. You see there is some fire and there's gonna be a casualty. Yeah, somebody was hit. I didn't use a smoke on purpose because I don't want to hide or, you know, burden the field of fire that we do need down the street. And this is the situation in the middle of the town. You can see things are heating up. The enemy hasn't crossed the street yet, but you know, somehow this building that I have immediately in front is offering like a lot of opportunity for definitely fire. Things are obviously heating up as seen from the north of the battlefield. This is the same sequence that I showed you before, just from a different point of view, and you can see we have some suppression there. I'm kind of worried right now. And this is a view from the south street. The enemy has started crossing that street, a bit slow to react, my forces. I should give them a narrow field of fire so they'll just focus it, like, you know, laser focus it on that street. But here and there the enemy is being targeted, and that's the important part. We are effectively attacking the flow. You will see that the situation for the enemy will be significantly impaired in the next sequences. And if you have to watch 10 seconds of this video, this is it. Look at the enemy. Look at that flow. We're attacking it. We're punishing the enemy with no mercy. They're falling by the dozen over there. Great job. And this is just a friendly reminder that I need to take care of my west side situation. The enemy showed up all of surprise there. It is good that, you know, the machine gun that I have somewhere in the background has taken care. Also the tank helping. But, you know, we need to accelerate that west flank clearance. And just to close this vignette, I'm showing you here the tanks that are still alive. They could survive for the entire scenario. I have inflicted so far around like 68 enemy casualties just by using these avenues of approach and attacking in particular the flow. I'm showing you this particular perspective because, as you can see, my tanks are defending their position, and well, basically what they have in front or to their sides is just stocks of enemies. There's no movement there, and this is just a reminder that, of course, you know, battles are a mix of different ways of fighting. So I hope you like this small vignette. Stay tuned for more, and please remember to subscribe. And I always enjoy having you around. Thank you very much for watching this video. Bye bye.